What's up, my peeps? In today's tutorial, we're going to go over high lunge. High lunge is such a great pose for strengthening the legs, stretching the hips, and is a precursor to all those one-legged balance poses. So first, we're going to go over the low back and the pelvis and kind of understand what to look for when we come into high lunge, and then we'll go over exactly how to get into this pose and any adjustments and modifications that you can make for your body. So whenever you're ready, pop into something comfy, roll out your mat, and let's learn this pose. All right, yogi, so go ahead and stand up, and I want you to start to bring your fingers, your middle and your pointer finger, right to the front of your hip here. So go ahead and wiggle your fingers around, and what we're looking for is that bony protrusion. We call it the frontal hip point on your pelvis. So if you wiggle your fingers around underneath the flesh, you might find that bony point, both of them on each side, that point forward. Keep your fingers there once you find it. And I want you to bring your thumb to your lower ribs. So those bottommost ribs, we call them the floating ribs because they aren't attached to the other ribs above them. So your two fingers on your hip points, your thumbs on your floating ribs. And just notice that distance in your own hands here. So for some of us with shorter torsos, our fingers might be really close together. And if you have a longer torso, you might have lots of space between those two bones. So just find that here. Keep your hands there. And I want you to just start to arch your low back by sticking your bum out. And when you do that, I want you to just notice that the space between those two bones, between your fingers, widens. So you're stretching out the front side of your body. And then if you do the opposite, if you start to round your low back and kind of pull your pelvis forward, then you shorten that distance between your fingers. So again, when you arch your low back, you're stretching the space. And when you round your low back, you're lessening this space here. So then find that neutral position right where your shoulders are right over your hips. And just notice that you're back to that default distance between your fingers here. And this is the kind of distance, this is the kind of pelvis and the low back angle that we want to find in our high lunge. All right, my friend, let's start in a standing forward fold near the top of your mat. So go ahead and separate your feet hip width distance apart, bend your knees, and then just fold on over, standing forward fold here. Let the head just hang, no pressure, just stretching out the back. All right, I want you to look at your feet and make sure your right toes are pointing straight forward. The right leg is gonna be the first leg we're gonna go on. So your right toes are pointing forward, your right ankle is right underneath your right hip. Bring your hands down, so bend your knees as much as you need to bring your hands down for support, and go ahead and step your left foot all the way back behind you, as far back as you can get it. Okay, if you can't get it all the way back, I want you to pop it back a couple of times, just so you find that your front knee is right over your front ankle. And go ahead and look at your left toes at the very back of your mat. I want you to make sure that your feet are in line with your hips. So they're not super close together on a tightrope. There's some space between your feet here. This just widens our base, so when we come up, we find an easier way to balance. Okay, and then keep the ball of your left foot down so that your left heel is pointing straight up towards the sky. I want you to bend in your left knee just a little bit. Notice how when you bend in your left knee, you start to angle your tailbone slightly down towards the mat, getting our torso ready to stack on top. Keeping the bend in your back knee, press your right foot down so you feel your whole right leg get firm. And then slowly crawl your hands to the top of your right thigh. Good. Notice when you release your hands from the mat, your right foot might start to wiggle around. We're finding our balance. And then use your arms as leverage to press your hands down into the top of your right thigh. And slowly stack your spine up here. All right, yogis, I want you to just notice, feel your own body in space if you're leaning really forward here. I want you to find your shoulders right over your hip points. So find that here. Keep the little bend in the back knee. I want you to notice when I bend my back knee, it's easier for me to be very, very upright here, shoulders right over the hips. And then hug, hug, hug your outer hips together like you have a big pillow between your inner thighs that you're trying to squeeze in. And at the same time, I want you to drag your right foot and the ball of your left foot together towards each other without physically moving your feet, so that you're hugging in from the sides and you're hugging in from the front and back of your mat, really, really firming up the legs here. You can bring your hands to your hips if you're feeling really steady here, just to check in and make sure we're not overarching in the low back or rounding in too much. You can bring your fingers to the frontal hip points, your thumbs to your low ribs, and just check that distance there. Bring your hands maybe to your low back and make sure you're not overarching there, yogis. And if it feels okay, you might be feeling a stretch in the front of your left hip already. If you're feeling more open in that hip, without overarching your low back, you can begin to straighten out your left leg any amount. You can keep it nice and bent if you'd like. Hands can stay at the hips or on the top of your right thigh, or maybe, if you're feeling stable, you can sweep your arms up alongside your ears. Good, but when we do this, we don't let the ribs pop out and arch the back. We stay very, very stacked, shoulders right on top of hips. Legs hugging in. We got one more big inhale here. And then as we exhale, slowly, 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 no rush, bring the hands back down to the mat, framing the right foot. Let's step forward and fold. Very nice, 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 nice work, yogi. Sway the hips side to side. Let the head hang. All right, yogi, I hope that clarified how to find both strength and balance and length inside of the torso in high lunge. If high lunge just doesn't feel comfortable or feel really obtainable in your practice at this point, then go ahead and check out the low lunge tutorial, which will be your alternative for high lunge. Thank you for joining me today. Subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you next time.